is Karen. So I thought I would start doing something new, and that is doing a wrap-up every single month. However, this wrap-up is going to be different because it's basically only a wrap-up. In the description of the video, I will list all the books I read. Mainly, I want to go back and revisit a book that I've read recently and loved. I am going to do what Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads or something like that does. And she lists like all the books that she's read in the month, but then she also like highlights her top books. So before I get into my review, I just want to quickly say that Book Depository reached out to me. They are doing basically a 1 week like challenge readathon sort of thing. I will put the info below if you're interested in participating, and they did give me a promo code which is readathon10. So if you order anything, you'll get 10% off, which is amazing. They are affiliated with Amazon. That's the only drawback. So one of my favorite books this month was Delphi by Clare Pollard. It is a book that Rebecca from Rebecca Eats Books also read, and I ended up loving it, and so that's what I'm going to focus this video on today. Delphi follows an unnamed narrator as she survives her first year of the pandemic with her son and her husband. She is a classics professor, so there's kind of mythology interwoven through the story as she's just engaging in internal thoughts about what is going on. There's a huge idea of time that is discussed and really interwoven through the whole story. This idea of, well, first of all, during the pandemic, this morphing of time and what it felt like, but also just the idea that we started out from ordered and we are going towards disorder, and thus basically the world is going to get crazier and crazier, and we're in it for the ride, and that's what's going on. There's this like crushing anxiety that the main character has over the future, and just this idea of how predicting the future is kind of a daydreaming about the future, and how that can somewhat settle anxiety about the future, although of course sometimes thinking about it amps it up again. If you're interested in following a woman through the first year of her pandemic while she literally just lives day-to-day life in a very mundane way, this is going to be the book for you. The part I loved about it is just all the internal thoughts that I was able to have because of the context of the book and the thoughts that the narrator was thinking, and just all the ideas that were brought up through the story really encouraged a lot of growth and just internal thoughts on my end. And so now I'm going to share about some of those. The first thing that really triggered a whole bunch of thoughts for me was this quote by Plato, which said, "Those who tell the story rule society." And I have heard this before. I think it's common knowledge, and we know that those in power are the ones who have written our history, that those who can physically write and communicate through a written language are the ones that have had the power in the past and have decided what our history looks like. We know that, but what it made me think of is the importance of diversity in your reading, because as we read, we are basically telling publishers and telling everyone who makes money off of books that this is what we want, and these are the voices that we want to elevate. These are the voices we want to hear from. And so it was just like another encouraging word for me to be able to just really focus myself again on making sure that I include loads of diversity in my reading, and that includes all sorts of the different ways that you could be diverse. There's also a discussion of the internet in general, and I found it interesting, although I don't think I agree with the narrator on it. But basically she was saying that back in the day, religion really ruled society. Everyone participated in a religion. They went to church on Sunday, or they went to Sabbath or whatever on Sunday, temple, I'm not sure. It was a regular part of their schedule. Religion was how they lived their life, and everything about their life was connected to their faith background. And nowadays, there's a lot of people who are atheists or agnostic, and they're losing that, or not really losing, but choosing to separate their lives from the ebbs and flows of religion. What this book is saying is basically, or the narrator is saying, is she thinks that the internet has kind of plugged in the hole that was created by stepping away from religion, and that basically the internet is kind of this look at me, look at me, look at me culture, which has come from, we used to have this dude in the sky that looked down on us, or that's how people viewed religion back in the day. I personally am a pretty religious person and I view it quite differently, but regardless, you were being watched, and there was this idea that someone was looking out for you and looking for you to do the right thing, and just like really cared about you and what choices you were making. And with people being agnostic or atheists, that went away, and thus we have the internet now, which is like, look at me, look at me, look what I'm doing, look at this, look at that, look at this, I'm such a good person because of this and that and that. And that is plugging the hole, that we need some sort of feedback, positive feedback on how we're living our life and what we're doing, and that the internet is filling that gap. I don't know that I agree with that, but I do think it's very interesting, and I do think that this look at me culture is something that I want to consider more deeply, and also consider what my part is in that. Finally, during the pandemic, lots of people were watching like all the same TV shows. Like certain things became popular, certain like hobbies, certain TV shows. A lot of people were doing the same sort of things, probably honestly because of social media. And I don't know if this is an actual statistic or if the author just came up with this number, but the narrator was talking about how people spend an average of 6 hours and 25 minutes watching TV every single day. And like I said, I don't know if that's factual statistic or not because it is a novel, but it does seem fairly accurate when you think about, like, I would say a typical American goes to work, they come home, they turn the TV on because they want background noise, whether they're watching it or not. They have dinner, and they veg in front of the TV until it's time for bed, and then they go to bed and start it all over again. It seems to be about right, 6 hours and 25 minutes. And it just made me think about my life. I don't watch TV. I'm not against TV. I just rarely have a show that I'm really into. I do watch loads and loads of BookTube, and I do spend way too much time just scrolling through ridiculous things. But it just made me consider, like, if 6 hours and 25 minutes is the average amount of time that people spend staring at a screen, what could be done if you chose instead to read books? And how much reading would you actually be able to get done in a year if you spend 6 hours reading every single day? And also, just like, how much would you grow as a person if you were choosing other activities besides watching TV, whether that's reading or connecting with others, or, you know, all the different things that you could be doing with your free time. It just made me think about, as I'm getting ready to start another school year in a month, how do I want to live my life and how do I want to spend my time? Rebecca from Rebecca Eats Books considers this type of book a thinking women book, and I don't know if that's a term that she has created or what, but I definitely think that this type of book is one that I read periodically. It doesn't make up the bulk of my reading by any means, but it was just like what I needed in the moment I read it. It was perfect, and I think that I will have a little bit heavier of a sprinkle in my reading life with these type of books, because I've really enjoyed it, and I really liked how it made me dig deep and think about my own life and the things that I want to tweak. Please tell me, you guys, what were your favorite books that you've read this month? I would love to see them in the comments, or to watch your wrap-up reviews on your channels. I really just want to know, like, what is amazing that I can add to my reading list in the future. And I'm also curious if you guys are interested in reading this book, and if you do, I would love to hear your thoughts on it, to see what we agree with, what we disagree, what themes you pulled out that I didn't really touch on, all that sort of stuff. I hope you guys have an amazing start to August, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.